Assalamualaikum, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Legal Innovation and Technology webinar series. This is episode 25, and today we're going to be talking about something that's been talked about for a while now, and actually globally এটাকে নিয়ে কথা বলা হচ্ছে এবং আমাদের জন্য কারেন্টলি এটা এখন খুবই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ একটা স্টেজে আছে কারণ আমরা একটা ট্রানজিশনাল ফেজের মধ্যে আছি তো আমরা we are all in this digital world and there is no denying it. Everything that we do, we say is connected. However, the rules and regulations regarding this particular matter has been a bit neither here nor there. So we started with Digital Security Act 2018. Then we went to the Cybersecurity Act 2023, which was again criticized by a lot of people সবাই অনেকে বলেছে এটা নতুন নামে একই জিনিস, new packaging but the same old thing, new wine in an old bottle. So, but খুবই কিছু হয়তো চেঞ্জেস হয়েছে, but honestly, I don't think the people at large could see the difference because actually implementation stage, I think we have not been as good. Yes, we agree uh, that we are going to be talking about this topic, which where we want to know: Are you cyberspace ready? Are you aware of the impact of the new Cyber Ordinance 2024 that's in the draft? What it means for the businesses and the society, and what role do we play as individuals in that term? একটু যদি আমরা একটু ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডের দিকে কথা বলি, যেটা আমি বলছিলাম যে আসলে countries all around the world have some sort of cyber legislation. And while 156 countries, which is almost 80%, 80% of the countries around the world have included cybercrime legislation. About, I think it varies from region to region. European has the highest percentage of adopting cyber security legislations, whereas we have seen, in continents like Africa having the lowest. Uh, these are data according to the United Nations Conference. However, where do we stand in Bangladesh, where we see that cyber crimes have increased and it is going to be increasing in the coming years. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm Barrister Tasnuva Shelley, and I have experience of over 18 years in law, technology, and cybersecurity and innovation. And we are joining with this discussion today with Mr. Tanvir Nazam Hussain.
Yeah, it's too long.
Tanvir,
Thank you.
you have worked in the public policy sector as a consultant. You have advised various regulatory bodies. You have your own views about the ordinance, and actually, we were both discussing this. Your recent article at the Daily Star in November, I believe 20th November, titling,
Thank you.
safeguarding the digital rights. I thought that was amazing, and I just didn't have time to write about it. I told you that, like, I'm so glad somebody's talking about it.
Thank you.
And Tanvir, you have experience as a communication consultant. You have worked as an in-house for various multinational organizations, as a policy strategist for telecom operators, the big names like Grameenphone, Banglalink, Huawei, and as a public policy and government relations consultant uh, for various projects and tech giants in Bangladesh. TikTok, you work for TikTok. That's amazing. And Tanvir, you have a degree in international law from the University of Wales, and you are also an accredited mediator. Amazing. And you are now following your passion as the managing director of Beehive, a cross border e commerce platform. So, welcome, Tanvir. It is really, really good to have you here. I know we've been struggling a bit with time. We both have a very busy schedule, but I'm glad it worked out. And I am going to get to talk, about something, a topic that is of, importance. And I think we both have interest in that. So,
Right.
how and welcome.
And, and thank you, Tasnuva. You made me sound much better than who I am. Thanks for that. But just a correction, I didn't advise regulatory bodies as their consultant ever yet, but did advocate for policy reforms and changes in licensing and policy guidelines on behalf of private bodies. And also as an individual, I do write about policy matters, especially the tech and ICT sector. And this is obviously is a matter of not only professionally close to my heart, but also like as we have talked about, as a concerned citizen of this digital era globally, not only for Bangladesh. This is a matter of concern and interest for any individual who wants to stay safe and want to keep others safe in this digital arena. Thanks a lot.
Everyone's cup of tea. Not everybody wants to, know about all this, but they do believe, though, that um, আসলে সাইবার ক্রাইমস বাড়ছে এবং সাইবার ক্রাইম দিনে দিনে আরো বাড়বে এবং আহ, আমাদের জন্য আসলে it's high time that we realize that ICT sector, IT sector is not something different from us lawyers or public policy consultants or any sector. I think every sector is now IT sector and has an impact. And like you said, and we have seen that the rise of cyber crime, it's just not for Bangladesh, though. It's a global problem because we are all going through this transformation. And from, data breaches to, like, cyber attacks, uh, there are constant new threats, new bad actors are constantly, coming up. Technology that was very new and cool, like, a couple of months ago, is very outdated and done like in 6 months' time. Bye bye. So it's really difficult, and if you're not up to date with what's going on, with the trending technologies and the frontier technologies that are the big players, you are actually going to be left behind. So I want to ask you basically, uh, because like I said, it's very important, and we're both passionate about it, personally and professionally. I want to know actually, if you can briefly, like, elaborate, the current cybersecurity landscape for Bangladesh. I mean, where are we? Like, what are we doing? Oh, I mean, in the rank of, like, EU is the most adaptive, South Africa least. Like, where do we stand, really?
Um, it's actually difficult to say where do we stand because most of the countries of the world, from our perspective, there is no proper data of it. So like are very advanced, and there are also criticism of their way of tackling this whole cyber security and privacy arena. Some people actually are not big fans of the way EU handles it. They think they are very tyrannic when it comes to that. They're against open internet. While if we look at further west, the North American countries, as they actually rule the cyberspace, they want it to be much more open and welcoming for everybody and people to be more adventurous in this arena because they rule that arena. But when it comes to us, we are more of an adapter kind of country. When it comes to digitization, we basically do follow others. And we realize that these things are easy, these things are technically cheaper because we don't count our own data as currency of something of value. So we are very open to give it away to get services which are free. But if you look at from a very old perspective of business, It says when a product is free for you, that means you are the product. So when digital services are free for us, just because we're buying access to the internet, and the other services come for free, that means our data that we give away to get the services for free becomes the product for them to sell out. So, and on this process, we also expose ourselves to others, other players in the whole system. That's why, as we are making significant strides in the digital journey, we have adopted a lot of services which made our life much easier, made it easier for us to communicate with people, to access knowledge, to access entertainment, to get more connected with our social life. But we also are facing the surge of cyber crimes like data breaches. Our personal data are getting leaked out. We are getting exposed. On top of that, when it comes to businesses, they are facing even not only businesses, also individuals, as where data are stacked in places which are far from us. If it gets accessed by someone else, then we are getting the ransomware kind of threats. Businesses are being forced to give money to be able to gain the access back to the systems. Also, like the very common thing, the phishing, that we get messages or emails with links, we click on them and we expose ourselves. And also, like, we give away information on social media that actually expose our system. And the people who are actually expert in that, they know how to do the social engineering in the current era and gain these. And as consequence, we actually are being exposed to cyberbullying kind of harassments. And also, like, these cause serious emotional and psychological distresses. Just think about, it's a very common thing that people getting exposed by sharing private photographs, and they get leaked out, or like conversation that get leaked out, and we get very exposed to a situation that is not pleasant at all. And what digital is basically, we have this concept over time that, okay, digital is a new thing or it's a new service. But as a matter of fact, digital is more like electricity today. Like 50 years back, electricity was a new thing. But we cannot think of any business, any life, any household without electricity, any activity without electricity. This is the second era where anything and everything is connected. Anything and every information is actually, even we knock our family next door, living next door to us, using a platform that actually keeps the data forever. So this is the kind of exposure we get into, and these exposures, as we are not very much aware, as you mentioned, not everybody is aware of the risk, or not everybody is aware of the exposure. It's also opening up a new kind of scope for criminals to put us in trouble in different ways. So the cybersecurity matters are as the service uptake is increasing, our cybersecurity risks are increasing as well.
Absolutely right, and I agree with you uh, that it's hard to measure at this point where we stand because we don't have a data. Um, we don't understand the value of data, but we do hear the term a lot these days. Data is the new currency, and but I don't think we are all yet to appreciate what it really means. We're not there yet, but I do hope, with these such discussions, such talks, such articles and write-ups, and more people start talking about it, learning about it, knowing how to be safe in the cyber world. What are the new risks that are coming in place? And you rightly mentioned, actually, when you about the data, not having a data, which is very true. But recently this year, I think earlier this year, so there was this report, actually, by this um, in 2024, actually, Cyber Crime Awareness Foundation. And
Yeah.
it's not a comprehensive data, but it did kind of pick up on the issues that we are facing. Actually, if I want to share that with you, it kind of said that, that most victims were actually educated. However, only 12% decided to take legal action for, facing cybercrime. And the remaining 88% of the people, they chose to be anonymous and not talk about it. And the report also mentioned that those 12% that did report, they did 87% of them did not get a positive outcome. I mean, so the support they needed from the law enforcement, they didn't get it. And the report also revealed that 78.78% of the cybercrime victims were aged between 18 and 30. And like you mentioned at the end, that, electricity and internet is kind of now becoming a synonym. And actually, this age group is the people that's using the smartphone the most all the time for everything. So they are the ones who are, the majority of them are falling victims of cyber crimes. And the another uh, shocking thing that this report picked up is basically, which again aligns with the rest of the world's data, like that 59% are women. They are the victims. And the most popular type of crime that seemed to be prevalent in this report happened to be social media account hacking. And some a bit small percentage were pornography related crimes, which did not exist before. And we see a new rise in that. Then there are a lot of people who are saying they're losing their social status, their social standing, because of, this cyber crime, or becoming a cyber victim in the society. And almost 40% said, like, they also faced financial loss. And not to add the emotional and mental distress and anxiety this can cause to a person. So it is quite shocking. And what did you know about this report? And what are your thoughts? Shocked or?
Um, Honestly, it's not very shocking. That's what we have been talking about. We knew this was happening around us. I myself have lost an email address which was, linked to one of my social accounts, and that I never got back. Luckily, that was not Facebook. That was my YouTube account where my posting were private anyway, or not, were not private anyway. I didn't have chat history with other people where, like we do talk political matters as well. We do talk our own family issues as well. So getting those exposed, and why don't people report about it? Because when you report about it, you actually let more people know about it by yourselves, and that's where the dilemma comes in. Yes, as per the report, it says like around 21, almost like one fourth of the total reported crimes were around, social media and social media accounts. And of course, it is easy to actually exploit women and children, especially in conservative countries like ours, where they're seen to be more precious, and they're supposed to have the burden of keeping their dignity in the society than men themselves. But if we look at the larger, more upper-ended perspective, we often in the last few years, have been, have witnessed that many of the, big shots, telephone calls, or chat screenshots, or let's say profile photographs they have shared have been leaked. So it's not only women and children when it comes to this matter, but also men, or even like older men and women, they are also exposed. So it's not the matter is which age range, as long as you're using digital media, you're exposed to the digital world, you are vulnerable if you keep yourself that way. So same, it's like using electricity. It can save your life, make it comfortable, but the shock of it can kill you. Right. 'Cause. 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 '
cyberbullying, harassment, sharing of non-consensual intimate image, um, there's been an increase of that. And yes, women, young girls, children, um, are falling for this, and maybe because they're not aware that they didn't even think something like this can happen. And I'm not even going to touch about AI and what it can do, because that is another whole discussion altogether. However, as you mentioned, cyberbullying, harassment, online harassment, and sharing of non-consensual pictures and images. Uh, what does the new ordinance how does it address these challenges? And uh, are there any implications for businesses in this regard?
When it comes to that, basically, especially who would be responsible, especially when it comes to data. It's there are two kinds of data processors, right? People who get the data, people who process the data. So this new ordinance, it was also in the previous law to some extent, that and to put the burden on the institutions who actually do take who actually hold the infrastructure that holds the data and processes it, and it imposes some obligations on them to for the security of the data, to safekeep the data. It also puts requires the companies who will actually hold the data to disclose if a data breach has happened. Recently, we actually have experienced the very database of the national database of our citizen that was compromised, and it didn't come to our knowledge before it was exposed by some other like news agencies and others. But it actually has the responsibility now that they have to let people know that your data has been compromised. But the problem with that is if the data is compromised, there is no redundancy plan about it. So there's something they could work on, but there is one problem that some people who didn't want to give biometric data when we were doing biometric data taking for passport and national ID cards, because this is unique data. You cannot never change it even if you need to or want to. So if this data is compromised, your fingerprint may end up in somewhere else where you have never been to, or your other kind of biometric data can end up somewhere where you haven't been to. So just the notification is just telling you, I'm sorry, but this sorry doesn't count much when it comes to it. And it actually, one thing it has done well, that is the establishing the Cybersecurity Council. A similar council was there before, but this council has been given a bit more responsibilities. So hoping that this Security Council will come up with innovative solution, which would be mandatory for organizations around the country to safeguard citizens' data.
Has been given to organizations, asking them, to make sure they have proper infrastructure in place to protect data if they are in that business. And, and to also do self assessment. I mean, oh, I have a software, I know I'm safe. That's not enough. On a regular basis, you need to kind of check if these measures are in place, if they're working. And if you do see, a segregation or something that is different, or there was an incident, you have to report it within a time frame, and you should also have an incident response plan in place, which we saw for big businesses before, like business continuity plan. So now we have seen that incident response plan should be in place. Like, we don't want you to panic and thinking, oh, there was a data breach, you don't know what to do. You should know who are the three people to contact, how how you can stop it, or how you can minimize the risk and the breach. So, and even though about the Cyber Security Council, which was agency before, uh, does play a crucial role. However, uh, it has been very controversial about their expertise and whether they do these investigations in a timely manner, and what are the outcomes. Is there a framework, is there a guideline as such? So you have really pinpointed, like, these obligations now are on the businesses to proactively make sure they're safe, have a cybersecurity infrastructure in place so that these don't happen. And if they do happen, it's a lot of work for them. So if you don't want to
Yeah,
do
for example,
much
let's say
work,
like uh, for digital banking system, if the bank knows that their system has been compromised, they can let the customers know immediately that okay, we're shutting it down for a while, or change your passwords in next half an hour or something like that. That might be some measures around it, but some leaks, there has to be what is more important, as we discussed earlier, that awareness of the people. um, what this ordinance could do around this actually it could actually mandate this council to create awareness as one of their core job in the job role. Like, we're talking about public awareness campaigns, or like educate in the education system, and uh, entrusting the education system to train kids up around cybersecurity measures, like what is right and what to do, what not to do on the cyberspace. And also like they could actually collaborate with media and civil society, so that people actually would know. Like, for example, when we go out of our home, we do lock our door, and that we have been doing as a practice. We have seen our parents doing it, we have seen our grandparents doing it. So we have to get into this practice in the digital system as well, because just your phone is not just a device that you use to call somebody. It also holds data which is very sensitive and crucial for your life, and for your loved ones as well, and also the company you work for or the organization you work for, even if it's government. So some small practices could actually make massive difference in this arena, and being aware of that is something very, very important. And if not by this ordinance, but with something else, the government should actually take the measure around it, so that, as you already mentioned, the digital data is the new currency. So the more vulnerable your currency is left around, the worse it is going to be for not as only us as individuals or business organizations or government agencies, but as a nation as a whole. We will become more and more vulnerable. So this awareness should be something government should make a duty of, if not this, but some other agency.
a topmost agenda of this council or any council that's trying to introduce something new, um, and something that is challenging. And because honestly, these were not taught to us. Only probably, like I said, the computer engineering students, only they knew all these. Like, the lawyers need to know this. Like, if I am to put somebody, under for violating one of the provisions of this ordinance, or if I am to give the victim justice, I need to know where this breach happened, how it happened, what was deleted, what was manipulated, what was the loss. All these things, these are quite a bit technical. The lawyers need to understand this, then I can make the judge understand it, and maybe the judge can give a fair and just judgment. And there is a gap. And thank you so much for mentioning that the role of the educational institutions. Yeah, I think we should start early now. They should not just learn how to use computer, they should also learn how to be safe while using the computer, because it's just not basic ICT anymore. You're learning copy paste, you're also online. Somebody's tracking you. And something funny that I have seen during my research over the past few years that some of the universities have cyber law as a course, but there is no uniform approach to it. I mean, it depends on the university, depends on the professor. It's like I believe there should be a uniform curriculum, one for the schools, universities. I think as a basic core subject, they should have cybersecurity now, not just specialized subject. So thank you for mentioning that. And the media and civil society, and I think they play a huge role. They can help us understand. Like I said, these are all technical terms, these are very difficult to understand. Like, for example, misinformation, disinformation, narrative intelligence. We have recently seen this like all over the newspaper. uh you know the spread of fake news, what it can do to an organization or an individual, a government, or a political party. So what is the difference between these two? And I think one of this could be a lot easier if these draft regulations, especially this one, like which has an international applicability. This ordinance, like the other one, it will have an impact. Uh, doesn't matter where you are currently. It will be considered as if you were in Bangladesh, and you will be convicted under this. So when we have regulations or ordinances which has international applicability, যদি এগুলা বাংলার সাথে সাথে ইংলিশেও একটা ট্রান্সলেশন থাকে, I think that would be so helpful for so many people. And anybody would think twice, because these digital crimes, cyber crimes, you really don't need to be next to me to do any harm to me. You can be sitting somewhere else, like thousands of miles away. I don't even know. I mean, so if somebody who's speaking a different language or from a different continent or jurisdiction, so if it's in English, there is an English version of it, then it would make things a lot easier. And of course, I do understand that we there is a mandate that all the regulations and laws will have to be in Bangla, but we can actually have an unofficial English translation, because let's face it, a lot of these words that were used here, infrastructure, cybersecurity, cyber prevention, like these are all like these all came from the English laws and the IT sector, so it would have been a lot easier. And before we go further, I want to talk a bit about the fact that I was very happy to see that for the first time in this order, in our cybersecurity regulations, they mentioned digital forensic and its importance in in the cybersecurity space. So digital forensic can play a big role, and it actually plays the most vital role. However, what I want to ask you, Tanvir, is that digital forensic, even though has been mentioned in this ordinance, I do feel like there is a gap. They just mentioned that we'll use digital forensics, but I think there should have been a bit more talked about it, because digital forensic is key, and there is a huge gap. uh, what are your thoughts? This is the first time it was mentioned in the ordinance.
Digital forensic, I mentioned, it's forensic, right? It's more of a post-mortem. Um, as it says, I'm not that much of a tech person, but we did work in tech for tech companies for a long time. That we know that digital actions, they leave their footprints, right? But to read those footprints, we need those expertise, not only knowledge base, but also, technology wise, we have to be there. So it is required. It's not only the law will actually solve it, right? You say like, okay, there will be a post-mortem after someone dies abnormally, but there has to be trained personnel and equipments to solve that, do that post-mortem for the viscera test and others. So to do the digital forensic, it's very, very required that the government invests in these things in both in technology and both in the human resources part of it. So the education is required. For that, maybe only government efforts will not be enough. So private partnership with private bodies would also be required to some extent. Especially, we need the educational institutions to have those courses, as you mentioned, for the law course to have an LLB degree. There are options, or for LLM, there are options for cyber law, but those laws are not, standardized. Those courses are not standardized. In defense for Bangladeshi universities, the cyber-related law are very limited, right? We still don't have any proper privacy law. We still don't have any proper, some other different kind of data protection law. So if there is not enough law, what's the point of doing a full credit course on it? Probably that's their point. So on so along with that, we all do not only have to have the curriculum for what cyber forensic would entail, and have more people trained on it, but our country, like for a country like ours, we have one big problem. See, most of our kids, our parents, they want their kids to study engineering. Why? Because if they study engineering, there's a high chance they're going to get a scholarship in a Western country, and they will go and never come back. So it's not only having those training, having those courses in the schools enough, being able to retain those talents inside the country to serve the country would be required. So it is also required that we have enough, workforce retaining capability infrastructure, so that we can, because when these are new capabilities, and the pool for these capabilities are very high throughout the world. So if we train up our people and they leave the country and serve someone else, that may not be very valuable for the country. So this attracting and retaining good talents in this field, so that uh, for forensic, why would that be required? You claim that your ex-husband or ex-boyfriend has leaked your photograph. So someone has to prove that their account or their device or something associated with them were used. What we do, if we post something and then we don't want to keep it there, we delete it, and we delete it from our phone. But forensic means that we actually can go back and find it out, dig it out from the systems, both online or offline or from your device. So that would be required, and that would actually. Why do we have law? We have law not to punish people. We have law mostly with the goal to deter people from doing that crime, right? So if we have the fear that even if I delete it from my device, it can still be dug out. I can still be held responsible. Only then I deter myself from doing that. I'm not saying that every individual is bad, but people do bad things. So the good society is the society where doing bad things more difficult, right? So to make it more difficult, we should have these, and people should be aware that this is possible, so that they deter themselves before doing the crime, and saving themselves and their loved ones from harassment and embarrassment as well.
Tanvir, because I feel like digital forensics expertise in Bangladesh, there is a lack, there is a gap, and I think the ordinance very rightly mentioned the need and the importance of digital forensics. However, they did not put down any criteria or qualification
Right.
requirement. I mean, anybody and everybody cannot be a digital forensic expert. One that needs to be understood. It reminds me of yeah. Do you remember that a TV series Dexter? How
Right.
you know and when you get a cut basically postmortem, like, you can tell whether it was a knife, what kind of a knife, it was a sharp knife or it was a blunt knife. And with the depth of the cut, you can tell how much force was used and
Right.
all that. So then whether it was, the attack was self-defense or an attempt to murder. So it's something exactly like that. I mean, that is exactly the role that digital forensic experts can do. And it is not everybody can recover deleted images, files from a device. It's a everybody cannot do it. So I do give credit for mentioning digital forensics. However, if the qualification, because if the right people are not there, the very basic things will not be discovered.
Right.
And deterrence effect is why we make laws. You're so
Right.
right. Like, if the deterrence effect is not there, we can have, this is the third one, we can have another six, but we will still be facing that problem. So I love the fact that you mentioned about the deterrence effect. I think we keep forgetting it, that
Now, that's the
completely.
reason one thing we do believe, right, that if a law is not enforceable, there's no point of having that law. Then the civil justice can fix it. But if we're having a law, that means something which is enforceable. And to make it enforceable, you should have the equipments and the tools to make it enforceable. So forensic, cyber forensic is one of them. So,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, that we hope that the council, when it's formed, will actually have the right kind of regulations and guidelines, and the system of of employing right kind of forensic people into the forensic department. What we have seen always, like even in the present time, that we do have a lot of agencies under the ICT division of the Ministry of Telecom and ICT, but people who are employed there, they are on deputation from different places, and it's not been developed as a cadre by itself. So probably that is something we are going to, if we have police for public order management, for public cyber order management, we may need a special kind of policing or like a cadre system to develop and retain that kind of talents.
Yeah, I think businesses can play a proactive role. They have as always, we know the government is always running out of funds. I think these private organizations, civil societies can play a big role, like train their internal employees, and help build this capacity that's needed. And like you also mentioned, make sure we can retain them, so that they don't leave us, and we're back to square one. And we have actually seen, that it's just not this, along with civil society, I believe also the public at large can play a big role. And
Right.
you mentioned about it, যে আমরা যখন বাসা থেকে বার হই আমরা তালা মেরে বার হই। আমার ফোনটা যখন আমি কিনি, একটা মানে I'm just like got internet. I mean, thanks to cheap internet and thanks to China for cheap smartphones. I mean, that's great, but how often do I, update my software? How do I know to check my privacy settings? Do I know what risks I'm exposed to when I'm connecting to a public Wi-Fi? And there are many threats actually, and as you mentioned, there are bad actors, but then there are also scammers. There are people we know. I mean, I think everybody at least knows one person who was scammed online through social media. I mean, I don't think I have met anybody who either themselves was scammed or they know somebody who was scammed. Whether like write a message and say like I'm sick, can you send me money? And like because now we have these mobile financial services, within seconds the money's gone, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
So there is really, unless we ourselves use our critical thinking skills and think before we click on a link, check that phishing email address there, and they're really sneaky like that. They'll change one A and O And like, we are always in a rush. We don't really always pay 100% attention, and they know that. They take advantage of
Right.
that. So I think, as individuals, as a citizen, like not just a citizen of Bangladesh, I think just like, globally, because even if you're traveling abroad, that doesn't mean you're absolutely safe. These things happen abroad as well. So you just need to be smarter. And also, one thing that I was saying, like, uh, maintain your digital dignity. Like, before you post something, before you share something, before you comment negatively about something. So, like, is it digitally dignified of me to do something like that, post something like that? So, like, self awareness kind of will take us a long way, I feel. But then again, আসলে আমিও তখন মনে করি, আমাদের দেশে মেজরিটি যারা আসলে দুপুরে জানে না রাতে কি খাবে, কোথায় ঘুমাবে, তাদেরকে আসলে ডিজিটাল ডিগনিটির কথা বলে লাভ নাই। দে উইল বি লাইক, মানে রাতে কি খাবো আমি জানি না, কোথায় ঘুমাবো আমি জানি না, এখানে ডিজিটাল ডিগনিটি নিয়ে আসছে। সো মানে উই আর লাইক এট এট আ ক্রস রোড। সো ইটস ইটস
এই জায়গাটাতে
ইটস
মানে ইটস অনলি বাট ভালনারেবিলিটিটা আসে কি, ভালনারেবিলিটি আসে আসলে এই যে আমরা যে রিপোর্টটাও দেখলাম যে মোস্ট ক্রাইম যেগুলো রিপোর্টেড হয়েছে এরা কিন্তু শিক্ষিত মানুষ। হ্যাঁ, দে আর অ্যাকচুয়ালি মিডল ক্লাস, আপার মিডল ক্লাস, আর ইভেন অ্যাবাভ দ্যাট। দ্য চ্যালেঞ্জ হচ্ছে যে মানে উই আর নট গিভেন দ্য প্রপার আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং অফ দ্য ডিভাইস দ্যাট আই এম হোল্ডিং, হাউ পাওয়ারফুল ইজ দ্যাট। আমার মাঝে মাঝে মনে হয় যে ড্রাইভিং এর জন্য যেরকম আগে লাইসেন্স নিতে হয়, to be able to run a digital device, we should have a basic training and license first. ওই যে লেট 90s আমাদের দেশে ছিল না যে সবাই ওই এসএসসি পরীক্ষার পরে কম্পিউটার ট্রেনিং নিতে যেত, কেউ মাইক্রোসফট ওয়ার্ড ইউজ করতে হয়, ওইটা একটা সার্টিফিকেট দিত। সো
আই টুক
স্মার্টফোন
দ্যাট।
ইউজের আই ডিড দ্যাট টু। সো লাইক স্মার্টফোন ইউজেরও হয়তো একটা এরকম সার্টিফিকেশন দরকার হতে পারে সামনে গিয়ে, টু ওপেন a social media account and to actually run devices like that, because you're not only making yourself vulnerable. If your device is compromised, the Wi-Fi system of your home can get compromised, which can compromise other devices in the house. So you're not only making yours, just like a driver who's not risking their life by rush driving, they're also risking the life of people around them with that.
Yep,
সো
yep.
এই ধরনের ট্রেনিংটা আসলে খুব দরকার এই জায়গাটাতে। যেরকম বিজনেসরা কিন্তু এটা করে, মোস্ট অফ দ্য বিগ বিজনেসেস দে অ্যাকচুয়ালি ট্রেন আপ দেয়ার স্টাফ রিগার্ডিং, you have to lock your computer, you cannot share the password anywhere, you have to change the password every week. They enforce it because they know the value of it.
হ্যাঁ,
বাট ওইটা
এই
আমরা
যে ইউএসবি ড্রাইভটাকে ডিসেবল করে রাখে,
ডিসেবল করে
সো
রাখা,
দ্যাট
বিকজ দ্যাট ইজ এ ভেরি
র্যান্ডম
ইজি
কোনো,
কন্টামিনেট। রাইট, এটা কন্টামিনেট করতে পারে খুব ফাস্ট। সো এই ধরনের ব্যাপারগুলো বিজনেসরা কিন্তু করে, বাট কয়টা বিজনেস করে? সো আদার বিজনেসেস হু আর সাপোজ টু ফলো দিস এজ ওয়েল, বিকজ কারণ বিজনেসের একটা একটা বিজনেস তো অনেক মানুষকে কানেক্ট করে। সো এবং বিজনেস যাদেরকে আমরা বিশ্বাস করি তাদের সাথে আমরা ডেটা শেয়ার করি, রাইট? লাইক ইন ই কমার্স প্ল্যাটফর্ম, উই ডু শেয়ার আওয়ার হোম অ্যাড্রেস উইথ দেম, উই ডু
Oh,
শেয়ার আওয়ার ডেটা
e-commerce
উইথ
is a
দেম।
big risk. Again,
লাইক
e-commerce যে
টেলিকম
বাসায়
অপারেটর্স,
বসে। হ্যাঁ, yep.
telecom operators, we share everything with them, right? They know more about us than we do, probably. So এই জায়গাগুলোতে এনারা কিন্তু টেলিকম অপারেটর্স আর মাচ মোর অ্যাওয়্যার অফ দিস, দে ডু হ্যাভ দিস টেকনিক্যাল ম্যাটার্স, বাট ওনাদের ওখানে ব্রিচ হলো যেরকম ব্রিচের ইম্প্যাক্টটা অনেক হাই। বাট একটা যেরকম আমি যেখান থেকে ফুড অর্ডার করি সেখানে যদি ডেটা কম্প্রোমাইজড হয়, সামান হু ডাজ নট ওয়ান্ট গুড অফ মি, দে ক্যান লিটারালি কিল মি থ্রু দ্যাট। তো এই জায়গাটাতে আসলে তাদের উপর রেসপন্সিবিলিটিটা কেন বার্ডেন অফ, মানে এই রেসপন্সিবিলিটিটা হায়ার অন দেম ইজ ভেরি অবভিয়াস, বিকজ দে অ্যাকচুয়ালি হোল্ড হায়ার স্টেক ইন দ্য সিস্টেম। তো এই কারণে যখনই ডিজিটাল বেসড হয়ে যাচ্ছে, তো এটা যদি সিকিউর না করা হয়, ইট পুটস এভরি ওয়ান অফ আস ইন ডেঞ্জার ইন ওয়ান ওয়ে অ্যানাদার। আর যেটা হবে যে ওয়ান বিজনেস ইফ দে ব্রিচ দ্য ট্রাস্ট অফ পিপল অ্যান্ড দে গেট এক্সপোজড, দ্যাট উইল ইম্প্যাক্ট দ্য ফিউচার বিজনেসেস as well. They will lose business, they will lose their track. So overall, as a nation to be stabilized, digital security awareness is very, very important for us.
You said it right. I think businesses have to be careful. because they do handle a lot of data. And another, the new boom of e-commerce sector. I mean, everybody has a side business run through Facebook. Apparently, that's called F-commerce. Um,
Right.
there is M-commerce also. So
Right.
they're they are doing data. Like if I have to order something from Facebook, I'm giving them my name, my mobile number, my address. Before we used to pay before, now I have become smarter. I'm like cash on delivery, please. So I did get scammed. My two of my products never came. So after that, I don't do it. And along with that, I think the digital platforms themselves need to take some onus, because actually they should be doing regular checking on what's being posted on the platform. And I another key player, I believe, is the media and the newspaper platforms. I mean, these be publishing fake news, misinformation, uh, actually can, like, create havoc in countries between political parties. I mean, recently I saw, uh, it was so real. Ronaldo in front of the Kaaba with his wife, like, doing the munajat. And for a second, I flipped out. I was like, oh my God, it really happened, because that was a fake news. And it was published. And I did share it with my friends, but I told them this is AI generated. And my friends were like, yeah, the skin was too nice to be real. And, like, people have the time to do this. It's not just it's also religiously moral. Like, you're putting somebody in front of the Kaaba, showing that, he's converted into Islam. So, people play with religion, with your mind. They know what ticks you off. So I feel like, these newspaper media, all the newspapers are now online. They should do, because they have more access to information. They can do that information investigation than you and I. We're just like, normal citizens browsing through the internet.
And also there
So
of the information. They're like, like hoax checkers. They're like fake news checkers. But the problem is like, see, these have been, legally forbidden for many years. But things come with necessity, right? Like in UK, in the 19th century, they came up with a law that says that you cannot publish my photograph, private photograph, without my knowledge, because that was the rise of paparazzis. People were taking photographs of people's parties and putting them on newspapers, and hence came the law.
making
So
money, making so much money.
making so much money out of it. So we are into the temptation as well. We know, like, if we put it on social media, and we have the urge to have the fame, to be the first one to know among my friends, that I'm the one who shared it. So, but as you mentioned, religion, in Islam, there is a hadith. Hadith is difficult to say right, or whether the proper hadith or not, but the learning of the hadith is really good. It says, what is lie? If you forward a message without verifying whether it's true or not, that is good enough to be categorized as a lie. So if lying is a sin, so then deliver, like forwarding a message or publishing it on your social media where you have 5,000 followers, or like people who can have access to this message, that is a sin in modern era. So what you need to do, like before you go ahead and like pushing it for all the people on your social media, or like in somewhere else to know about it, you have to be careful that, okay, is it verified, or is it like posted in a like a trustworthy agency? There are like lots of news agencies, so-called news agencies, who are not licensed. See, like there has been misuse of that. So there was always a question, like that's why, as you brought in the question of the article I wrote, that yes, there have been misuse of the law. There have been misuse of the law for punishing people for posting things on Facebook. But is it the problem with the law or the application of the law? So of course, if I publish on,
Implementation. The
yeah, if,
implementation of the law is where the problem is. Um,
exactly. So that's where we have to be more careful about whether it's an old wine in new bottle or whatever. But what we have to do, we have to change the bottle in a way that the bottle will not misuse the wine. It doesn't leak. right? So it cannot be porous. So we have to be careful with the implication of the law and that burden. So lawmaking is the burden of a certain side. Now we don't have a parliament, so that's parliament's job usually. But now, in the absence of parliament, it's an interim government. They have the right to put the ordinance over. But again, now that's a bigger onus is on the government when it comes to be the administrator of the law. It comes on the officers of the court, the lawyers, the judges, to ensure that it doesn't get misused. So we have to find out, and also it is important to figure out how do you differentiate between just an innocent message or opinion online. And so for that we have the old libel laws and others to figure out whether it was done, whether it is a lie, whether it was forwarded and broadcasted with the malintention to embarrass someone or undermine the social footing. So we say, like, again, digital is nothing new. Like it's not a new service. It's just a way of delivering things or like dealing with things. So the crime remains the same old things: harassing people, breaching trust, embarrassing, libel, like this kind of thing. So, but we just are using a different medium for that, and this medium is very risky because it can disseminate very fast,
Spread. Yes,
very
it
fast.
can cross jurisdictions in seconds. And absolutely agree with you. And I just noticed one thing though in the new ordinance, that the penalties and the punishments have significantly reduced. And actually, what you just mentioned, defamation, there was a provision about defamation which has absolutely been scratched off from this ordinance. Again, because we have other laws to deal with defamation.
Exactly.
Yes, and the the penalties that were 1 crore reduced to 50 crores, 5 lakhs to 3, 10 years to 5, 5 years to 3 years. So we have seen a reduction in that. However, a lot of people are thinking, so does that mean people are going to do it more? And that is when I told I was discussing this with a friend and said, no, it's because, like, the deterrence effect comes in place. Like, I guess it was so unrealistic to penalize somebody 1 crore uh, fine, which this hacker who has not even passed grade 5 will be able to afford. So they have kind of done this segregation in a way so that it is easier to implement, and it can be actually because since 2018 we still don't have a case law that we can use as a precedent. There's no definition of online harassment. So we just got the sexual harassment recently, last year, in the Labor Act. So there's nothing called online harassment as such. So I think, even though this ordinance brings in some hope, we hope that this bottle is so airtight that the wine stays better, because it is true that if you keep a wine in a bottle which is not airtight, it loses its its taste, is everything. So we need something, we need to work, I think, together. It has to be a collaborative effort. I don't think
Yeah,
a
that's the
government
reason, like
alone
as
can
you
do it.
mentioned, the matter with the case law. That's the reason I was mentioning that the officers of the court, they have a very high burden on like
Mhm.
establishing what is what here, like the where the boundary is, what is harassment, what is actually can be entailed as a cyberbullying, what is cyber terrorism. The like definitions on the law, it has done a better job in the ordinance this time. Definitions are much better in a better hold, and it has also introduced new crimes like cyber gambling, which we can feel that it has become a phenomena around us. People are losing money, people are getting addicted to it, and it was not a crime technically doing it online. Betting is prohibited, but many people are doing it from overseas, and we are like spending our money from here, and there are channels this money goes out the country. So this is something I do welcome when it comes to this. But How do we manage it? How do we, find out the perpetrators? How do we, keep them under control? That there's a lot to see about it in the coming days, both from the government side and from the judiciary side.
Well, I hope we do get to see, and I really believe that with the collaborative effort from the government, from the law enforcement, from policy experts like you, from the judiciary, support from the judiciary, and private sector organizations, civil society, and the general people. I think together we kind of need to combat these risks, these new crimes that we are facing, which we have not seen in before 10, 15 years ago. uh, and I think by working together, we can create a safer and a more secure cyberspace for everyone. And with that, I want to thank you for your time and this enriching discussion. And we have seen that the ordinance, in principle, has been approved, but it is yet to be made the law. So, you know, we're hopeful. I know you are. And with this, I also wish that, we have the other regulations in place as well. Like the data protection draft has been pending. There's no privacy law. And there are certain laws that are already conflicting. The Right to Information Act. We're talking about privacy, then there is the Right to Information Act, and two laws conflicting. So I hope that the policymakers and the experts like you address these issues, talk about these issues, and help create an economy that will ultimately you know benefit and support the development of a digitally safe and secure Bangladesh. So, Tanvir, any last thoughts before we sign off?
No, I would like to thank you for having me. As I've said, like you make me sound better than who I am. I'm more of a learner. I'm still
That
learning
was
about
that was
things,
my
and
job.
wherever I see a flag, I try to understand what it is, and then if I see something to talk about, I do like talking about it to raise more awareness in that field. So it was very intriguing and enlightening for me as well. I look forward to further discussions on matters like this with you. Thank you so much, Tasnuva.
Thank you, everyone who's been here. Do like, share, and comment. And as we are both legal professionals, we will end this with a disclaimer that whatever we talked about, good or bad, these are all our own personal views, and we are not linked with any organization, political party, or affiliated with anything as such, right?
Right.
So, with that, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Tanvi.
Bye.
Bye.